I'm Kevin Nelson. Here's a look at what's going on this week in the news. We begin with news from the Vatican. Pope Francis recently met with Burmese opposition leader and Nobel Peace Prize winner Aung San Suu Kyi. Addressing reporters after the meeting, Suu Kyi said that the Pope told her that hatred and fear diminish the life and the value of the person, and that we need to value love and understanding to improve the lives of people. In 1989, a military junta governing Myanmar, formerly Burma, put Suu Kyi under house arrest for a total of 15 years. An elected parliamentary government took power in 2011, and the following year, Suu Kyi was elected to parliament. She now serves as the chairwoman of the Committee for the Rule of Law and Tranquility. Pope Francis assured her of his prayers for Myanmar and for the Catholic community in her country. Only 1% of this overwhelmingly Buddhist country is Catholic. According to the 2013 annual report of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, violence and abuses of religious freedom and human dignity targeting ethnic minority Christians and Muslims continue to occur in Myanmar. More news now from the Vatican. During a year of faith celebration of family life, Pope Francis celebrated a special Mass in St. Peter's Square. Rome Reports has more on the Mass and the Pope's homily.
Over 100,000 people from different parts of the world came out to St. Peter's Square to take part in the Day for the Family. As Pope Francis got ready to celebrate Mass, he took a quick glance at his watch to make sure he was on schedule. During his homily, the Pope connected prayer to humility by explaining that humility comes from recognizing that one needs God.
E tutte le famiglie abbiamo bisogno di Dio, tutti. Bisogno del suo aiuto, della sua forza, della sua benedizione, della sua misericordia, del suo perdono. E ci vuole semplicità. Per pregare in famiglia ci vuole semplicità.
The Mass falls under the events organized under the Year of Faith. The Pope reflected on St. Paul by explaining that part of keeping the faith comes with sharing it. Even when families are pressed for time, he said prayer should not be ignored.
Pregare insieme il Padre Nostro intorno alla tavola non è una cosa straordinaria, è facile. E pregare insieme il rosario in famiglia è molto bello e dà tanta forza. E anche pregare l'uno per l'altro. Il marito per la moglie per il marito, ambedue per i figli per i genitori e per i nonni. Pregare l'uno per l'altro.
He then described Christian families as missionary families, and the Pope said that transmitting the faith often comes simply with expressing joy in everyday life. At the end of Mass, the Pope prayed before an image of the Holy Family, asking God to reawaken an awareness in society of the sacred and irreplaceable role of the family.
Looking now at news from around the country, there is a new effort underway to repeal the death penalty in New Hampshire. It will be at least the third attempt to do so since 2006. Now Bishop Peter Labaci of Manchester is declaring his support of the bill. At a recent press conference in Concord, the state capital, Bishop Labaci said that what must be called for in a civilized society is not retribution, but restitution. He said that though this is an emotional issue, the death penalty neither deters others nor brings perpetrators to an understanding of the gravity and horror of what they have done. He said instead, the act publicly validates the taking of human life. The New Hampshire Council of Churches, of which the Catholic Church is a member, declared in 2010 its opposition to capital punishment, saying that because each human being is created in the image of God and therefore enjoys the gift and possibility of redemption, the use of capital punishment is unacceptable. Its use and expansion should be condemned. We go back to the Vatican now. The president of Equatorial Guinea visited the Vatican recently, and though it may have been his first time meeting Pope Francis, it was not the president's first time at the Vatican. Rome Reports has more.
Pope Francis welcomed Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo, president of Equatorial Guinea, the only Spanish-speaking country in Africa. The two met at the Vatican's Apostolic Palace. They spoke about the contributions of the Church in the small African country The president expressed his pride in meeting with the Pope, now his third. They also discussed an agreement now in effect that recognizes the church and its institutions in the country. It also guarantees access to public areas like schools, hospitals, and prisons. After their meeting, the African head of state introduced his family and guests, including nearly a dozen government ministers. They then exchanged gifts. The president gave the Pope several tribal sculptures from Equatorial Guinea made with prized wood. He also gave the Pope an image of Our Lady of Bisila. The Pope in return gave him a papal medallion of his pontificate as well as a large drawing of St. Peter's Square. As they said goodbyes, the First Lady asked the Pope to pray for her country. Pope Francis agreed. During his farewell, the president also invited the Pope to visit the African country in the future.
Excelencia, me gusta haberlo
Finally in the news, according to a new study authored by 7 scientists, there is a direct evidence that human beings emerged from one single evolving human species. Both Monsignor Fiorenzo Faccini, an expert paleontologist and anthropologist, and Father Raphael Pasquale, director of the Institute of Science and Faith at Rome's Pontifical Regina Apostolorum University, say that this new hypothesis fits even better with the Catholic Church's position that humans came from one source and that they were freely created by God. The study published in Science magazine said there is direct evidence that the many physical differences displayed by the fossil remains of early humans do not represent different species. Instead, they represent simple variations within and among early hominids of the same lineage. Father Pasquale told Vatican Radio that the Church is open to science and any findings that are not in conflict with the faith. He went on to say that to maintain that God has a plan and he wanted to create mankind and that God could also have used the process of evolution is not a contradiction. Well, that is all the information we have for you at this time. I'm Kevin Nelson. Don't forget you can keep up to date on Catholic news throughout the week with Catholic Newsbreak right here on the Catholic TV Network.